All right, so we just landed on our way to Florida. We're gonna keynote speak at the Florida Chapter Club Management Association of America. We're gonna talk about follow-up and accountability. Some restaurants, some clubs got the training down, which is awesome, but what they don't have down is a follow-up. So you train the hell out of people, they're all excited, all rah-rahed out, they're ready to go. All of a sudden, 2-3 months later, everyone's falling off, right? They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, not performing at a high level. It's because you lack the follow-up and accountability, and that's management, leadership, systems that you have to build in to attach onto that training. And that's the biggest problem they have, and I see it all the time, right? So we're gonna fix the piece, give them that final piece of the puzzle, and show them what the follow-up and accountability really looks like and what it's all about.
A lot of these country clubs, they don't have any follow-up.
It's just crazy because it's like you would think like they'd have that figured out. Like they're kind of the top of the top, right? Like they want everything to be like high tier.
We have hospitality groups all the time that approach us that have really good restaurants, that do really well, very nice concepts, high-end concepts. Sometimes they're like fine dining and they're still not doing this stuff.
How did they reach out? Like what was...
They saw my content, they liked my content, but then Brett from Admiral's Cove, who's my freaking hero, connected with them as well. And Kelly, who's in charge of this amazing event, I'm like really impressed by it, to be honest with you. She did a good job here. She put a lot of not typical keynote speakers on for this event, which I really like. This is like the first keynote speaking event where I want to see the other keynote speakers.
What I love most about Preston is his humility, his humbleness. He loves the hospitality industry. He loves giving back, and he does it in a way with such poise and passion. With a warm welcome to my friend, Preston.
My whole philosophy is if you can truly develop your people, you will be successful in any business that you're in. That's what business to me is ultimately about, developing people. And I would ask you this, if you're owning a restaurant or GM of a restaurant and you can get all the managers underneath you to do exactly what you want them to do at a high level every single time when you're not in the building, you'd be pretty excited, right? And if all those managers can get the people underneath them, the servers, the bartenders, the attendants, the front desk people to do exactly what they want at a high level without them having to be there, that'd be something really special. If everyone's bought into that same message, same vision, same mission, that would be amazing, right? That's what developing people is all about. And that should be our main focus. That should be our obsession. How do we develop our people? A lot of people don't focus on developing their people. And I've worked in this industry for a very long time. I've helped open 35 restaurants and hotels, and I've seen what happens every single time. And I can tell you this much, there's no owner that starts off and says, I want to have pretty good food, decent experience. I want it to be like a nice place. I want it to be good, as long as it's good. Every owner is like, I want this to be the best. Right? No matter what, if they're selling burgers, if they're selling steaks, it doesn't matter. If it's a 5-star hotel, 3-star hotel, it doesn't matter. We want to be the best in our field. We want to have the best food, the best product. We want to have the best experience. I want to be known for our experience. I want to have that amazing experience. I want to be all about hospitality. I want to be the best. But then they open up, and a month, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, they fall very short from the mark. And most of these people are still successful. They're still on the green. But they fall very short from their vision and their goal of what they wanted to do. And that's because I noticed a trend is that they're willing to spend all this money in the buyout, right? Millions and millions on the buyout. They're willing to hire a chef, spend millions of dollars on equipment, millions of dollars on the development of the actual food itself, the product itself. But they never invest in the training piece for the front of the house, for the front people that are facing your guests. They don't spend any money. What usually happens is they're opening, and then they're like, a month comes down, to opening time, to launch, and they're like, hey, by the way, the GM who's stressed out, who's working 18 hours a day for the last 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, hey, can you do me a favor and make all the training for the new staff and then deliver it to them? And they're already stressed out. They're already not seeing their families. They're already not getting sleep. And they're like, by the way, I'm going to put you in charge of this huge component, the forward-facing employee that's talking to the guest. I'm going to have you do that training. So what do you get? Diminished results, of course, because they're rushing to trying to put something together. They're not classically trained to develop that stuff. And then they get diminished results, right? It's unorganized. It's not clean. It doesn't send the message. There's no vision. There's no buy-in. And then what happens? Every man for themselves. Dog eat dog, right? Opens up and it's kind of like, hopefully you got a little bit of what we're trying to tell you. Now go do your thing. To actually get something special, to actually get your mission and vision, to actually get buy-in, it takes a lot of work. It's not a form, right? It's not a document. It's not talking to someone for an hour saying, hey, here's what we're trying to do. There's a lot that goes into it. And that's why people fail so much at what they're trying to accomplish when it comes to their employees talking to guests. And one thing that's really important to understand is that your people who are talking to your guests, those front of the house people, whether they're the parking attendants, whether it's a front desk, whether it's spa, whether it's food and beverage, whether it's your management team, whoever it is, they're literally the representation of your brand's voice and your brand's vision, your brand value. They're in control of your money. They're in control of your buy-in. That's what separates you from your competition. So when you start a business, right? Common business model, pretty simple. Want to start a business? You find a really big demand in the market, and then you create a business that meets that demand, and then you fill that demand. Pretty basic business strategy. Right now, there's a demand for clubs, right? There's a demand for food. There's a demand for hotels. But it's also saturated. Saturated clubs, there's a lot of restaurants, there's a lot of hotels. But one thing that there's a huge demand in the market that people are craving is hospitality, elevated hospitality. And use yourselves as case studies. Because who in this room can say, I go to a restaurant, I go to a hotel, I go to even my bank, anything where I'm spending my money doing business with someone, and I confidently can say I'm going to get a really good experience consistently. It's rare. It's rare to get that consistent guest experience, that hospitality where you honestly feel like you're valued. You honestly feel like they care about your money. They care about you. Most of the time, it ends up being transactional, wherever you go. So right now is a moment where it's so easy to separate yourself from your competition just by focusing on giving the guest experience. But to do that, you have to build and nurture and develop your people. That's the number one thing. That's the secret sauce that everybody's sleeping on. And as AI becomes more prevalent, as all these businesses start trying to take away the human element, right? You're seeing in LA, they have fully automated robots that run restaurants. They're trying to do that. They're trying to get that piece in. How do we eliminate people, eliminate costs with technology? People are going to crave more and more and more the human interaction, hospitality, and people that care. Because when you have a transactional person, an order taker, that does not feel like human interaction, right? That just feels like a process that they're trying to get through. So that's why I preach and talk about this all the time. This should be your main focus. Now, a lot of people think that success lies in documents, or success lies in words, meaning that I'm going to teach my staff what words to say, and then they'll be able to give hospitality. And that's not the case. If that was the case, this job, this part of it would be very, very easy. But reality is, the true secret sauce into developing your people, getting what you want, getting that hospitality, taking it to the next level, being that rare breed that actually delivers elevated hospitality consistently, lies in leadership. Bottom line. And sadly, leadership is lacking because there's management and there's leadership. Everyone starts off in management when you're a baby, right? And you're supposed to develop into a leader. And there's a big freaking difference between a manager and a leader. You need leaders to be able to lead, to be able to inspire, to be able to nurture, to be able to train, to be able to develop. You have to have true leadership. The core truth is 90% of restaurants, clubs, hotels, whatever, focus on the wrong things. Does anybody here have an easy schedule? Raise your hand, please. Okay, about half of you. I'm joking. No one has an easy schedule here. Everyone's working hard. Everyone's working extra hours. Everyone's putting in the work. Everyone's working their butts off. But again, it's focusing on the right things. Understanding what's important. What are our goals? What is my mission? What is our mission? How do I focus on that to get to my mission versus putting out fires all day? Versus just checking boxes or doing tasks. Now, what if I told you that there's 5 things that you could do to elevate your venue forever? 5 things that you can start today to elevate your venue forever. Would you guys be interested in that? So I'm going to have you write down 5 things today as we go along this. I want to say one thing that I heard I absolutely love. Note takers are money makers. Note takers are money makers. Write down these things. Write them down with a pen so they stick to memory. I'm going to tell you the 5 things to write down to start focusing on today to be able to elevate your venue forever. So, what is a successful business model? We just went over that. Is it demand really in hospitality, or is it demand in food? Or is it demand in club, right? Is it in golf? Or is it truly in hospitality? I could play golf at a lot of places. There's some places that separate themselves just off their venue alone. But that's called we don't want waterfront syndrome. Waterfront syndrome, I live in California, and I've worked Southern California. I've worked all up and down the coast. Dana Point, Laguna Niguel, Laguna Beach, Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, worked all down the coast. One thing I noticed is that restaurants will sit on the water, and so people want to go eat there, right? Oh, I can look at the water while I eat. And restaurants rest on that laurel, so they have bad food that's really expensive. They have bad service, and they tell you they don't care. Give me a bad review. I don't care. People are still going to come into my restaurant. And I never understood why not crave both? Why not want an amazing restaurant that you're proud of with amazing food and amazing great experience? And those places have lines out the door. The other places survive because of summertime. Another thing too is I want you guys to think about this. Thinking like everyone else, average results will get you average results, right? I want to have a paradigm shift today. I want you guys to focus on something. I want you guys to have a different mindset. I want you to leave here with a different mindset. And that's where I go into finite versus infinite mindsets. So, finite, short term, infinite, long term. So, finite is like, I'm trying to get results for tomorrow. I'm trying to get results for today. I'm thinking about today or tomorrow. Infinite is how do we get better? So, chasing excellence, that's an infinite mindset. We're constantly chasing excellence. We're constantly chasing it. That's infinite. It doesn't end. We're never going to reach excellence. We're always chasing it. Even when we do reach it, we set a new bar. And I really want people to focus on that. Every time you make a decision, every time you're making a decision, every time you're thinking about something new for your venue, am I thinking with a finite mindset or an infinite mindset? And I'll give you some examples. Apple versus Microsoft. Apple has an infinite mindset. Great example. Does anybody remember the Zune? The Zune was Microsoft's answer to the iPod. So the iPod comes out, and it just skyrockets Apple. It just takes them to a whole nother level. It makes them relevant again. Microsoft slept on it, whatever, no big deal. But as it got more and more popular, bigger and bigger and bigger, Microsoft realized we have a problem. We need to find a solution. So they went to work. They hired the best of the best. They hired all the best people, and they figured out a way to beat the iPod, and they did it. They made it smaller. They made the screen better. They made it faster, had more memory, so it held more songs. And so they beat them, and they came out in the press conference, and they said, hey guys, check it out, it's a Zune. It's better than the iPod. It's an iPod killer. And guess what Apple came out with 6 months later? The iPhone, right? And just freaking killed the Zune, of course, and killed Microsoft. Again, and my point is, Apple has infinite mindset. Apple's not competing with Microsoft. Who's Apple competing with? Themselves. And Steve Jobs' philosophy is, we think about what's the best thing we can offer the guest or the client. What's the best thing, the best experience we can offer the client? What can we put in their hand that would benefit their life the most? And then we create the product from there. We reverse engineer. Another one is Chick-fil-A and Popeyes. If you follow me, I talk about this all the time because it's such an easy case study, and everyone knows these two brands, especially Chick-fil-A. And I'll give you an example. Chick-fil-A in 2001 was doing $1 billion a year. Pretty good, right? Yeah? $1 billion? If you guys had a company that was doing $1 billion a year, would you guys be happy? Yeah, they're doing pretty good. But Chick-fil-A knew that there was something more they can do, and they want to separate themselves from the competition. So in 2001, they hired the Ritz-Carlton to come in and develop their leadership program, their hospitality program, and their training program. And at the time, everyone said that they were crazy. It was a huge waste of time, huge waste of money, It's a QSR, your fast food. Why would you need that? The model's proven. Look at McDonald's, the biggest restaurant company in the world. They don't care about that stuff. You're offering inexpensive food. People want it fast, and they want it cheap. You have no need for this hospitality piece. But they knew that that was going to be the separator. They had a vision. They believed in it, and they worked on it. Now, 25 years later, Chick-fil-A is worth $25 billion a year. So they added $1 billion of revenue every single year since then. $1 billion. Now here's the crazy part. KFC does $33 billion a year. So KFC makes more money than Chick-fil-A. But KFC does it with 10 times the locations, which means per square foot, Chick-fil-A is absolutely crushing KFC, any competitor they have. Absolutely crushing it. And if you go to Chick-fil-A's model, which I actually poached someone from Chick-fil-A, one of their executives for my company because I was so obsessed with them. How do they do it? What's their focus? Any guess? Hospitality, but leadership. Yes, hospitality is right, but leadership. They develop their leaders like crazy in order to develop their people like crazy in order to give that hospitality experience. Their number one focus is their leadership development. That's what they're obsessed with. And this one's easy, right? Anybody still on MySpace? Yeah, so MySpace, Facebook. MySpace is like, how do we get more people to sign up, right? How do we get more people to build profiles? Facebook's like advertising. How do we get people to advertise? How do we get people on the platform? They had a different mindset. They had an infinite mindset. That's the difference. So I want you guys to walk away with every decision you make today, every single decision you make today. Is this an infinite decision or a finite decision? Yes, finite decisions are going to be necessary, but really trying to think of how we can innovate and be infinite as well. So one really important thing as we walk away from this, I'm telling you, I'm going to give you those 5 things to write down. So write this down. This is the first one. Infinite versus finite. Is my decision I'm making here infinite or is it finite? And even if it's finite, and it has to be finite, how can I also turn it into an infinite decision as well? And I want you to write this down too, because this is the most important thing. Like I said, note takers are money makers, but knowledge is not power. Knowledge with action is real power. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you have if you don't take action. So the next thing I want to talk about is the 80-20. Now, everyone's heard this, 80-20 before, but 80-20 is this. All problems are 80% psychological or 20% execution. So basically what I mean by that is that most of the problems that you have right now, where you're like, I can't do that one thing because I need X, I need Y, I need Z. Once I get X, Y, or Z, then I can do that thing. If you actually stop to think about it, if you go infinite, you're going to realize that it's psychological. It's actually solvable, but the next line is really important. It's not about resources, it's about being resourceful. It's about being able to be resourceful enough to do what you need to do with the resources you have. Instead of saying, once I get those resources, once I get that X, once I get that Y, once I get that Z, then I can solve that problem. If you honestly take time to think about it, you can find that most problems can be solved with what you have right now. Has anybody here seen the movie The Matrix? So, The Matrix. Has anybody seen Matrix 2, the second one, Matrix Revolutions? Which one's better? The first one, arguably. No one argues that. No one's like, oh, it's kind of close. First one's exponentially better. I'm telling you this because on the first one, they had a very small budget for a movie of its magnitude. And so the directors had to get creative, and they had to be resourceful. They didn't have the resources, and they didn't say, well, we got to get more money to be able to do what we want to do. I want to execute my vision with the resources I have. And they got super creative. And that's really where a lot of the magic lies in that movie. Because of the way they got resourceful, and the way they shot things, and the way they got creative, and made the movie have a certain look and feel. The second movie, well, the first one did so well, the producers were like, you can have as much money as you want, right? We're going to be successful. We want you to make the biggest, baddest movie ever. But because of that, they lost that resourceful edge. And the result was the movie was bloated. It was way too long, had way too many ideas. The special effects looked terrible because they just had money to dump all this money to dump into special effects, and you got diminished results. So it's really important to be resourceful because some of the best ideas the best executions, the best game plans come from being resourceful. So again, I want you guys to think when I'm solving a problem and I think I can't because of X, Y, and Z, really think, is that an 80 problem or a 20 problem? Because 8 times out of 10, it's an 80 problem. All right, so I want to tell you a little bit about my journey, why you should listen to me. I always try and explain this to my wife. I'm like, this is why you should listen to me. It doesn't work. Why you should listen to me, and just a little bit about me, so you got a little bit of history. So first of all, I've been over 20 years in the industry. I've helped open 35 restaurants, hotels. We've worked with over 300 restaurants worldwide. We've teamed with industry leaders, and we've trained countless teams, leaders, and owners. Like Brett said, I'm not going to brag. No? All right, that joke usually lands. But it wasn't all unicorn and rainbows for me. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I started off as a busser, and I worked 2 jobs, slept on a couch, and I wanted to be a server. That was my whole thing. If I could be a server, I'll make enough money to be able to afford my own apartment. So I busted my butt day in and day out, and I finally became a server, and I made that server money, got my own apartment. Well, I had roommates, but it wasn't a couch. And then I said, I want to make more money. So I want to get the best schedule. I want to get the best shifts. So I started working my butt off. I was the hardest worker in the room. I was the best server in the room. I always had the best sales. I got the best reviews. And then I became the top server. Then I became entitled. Has anybody ever worked with an entitled employee before? Raise your hand. Yeah, we've all worked with entitled employees. They're the worst. Trust me, I know. And so I was an entitled server. So I had a really freaking bad attitude. It was all about me. All about my money, all about my shifts, all about my tips, all about my schedule, all about me. And that ended up getting me fired. And I couldn't get another job because I had a bad attitude. I thought I was the ish. I thought that it was a luxury to hire me. Do you know who I am? Do you know how good I am at what I do? And so I couldn't get a job, and it got really bad. My car got repossessed. I had no money. When I say no money, I had $5 to my name. It's not including the debt I had. And I almost got evicted. I was about 2 weeks from getting evicted. And I finally landed another job, and I was taking a bus to work, and I had a realization, an epiphany, that I'm a loser. And I decided to take ownership, because before that point, I blamed everyone else. I got fired because of my managers not supporting me, my friends not backing me up, my people not appreciating me enough. I wasn't getting a job because of this reason. All these things that were my problems, I blamed everybody else. But at this moment, I decided to take ownership. And I said, this is my fault. I put myself here with my bad attitude, and something needs to change, and it was my attitude. So I decided to have a different attitude. I decided to value my job. I decided to value the people who honored me with that job, honored me with work. I decided to value my managers who are watching over me. I decided to value my coworkers who are working side by side with me. I decided to understand I had a responsibility to all of those people to perform. I had a responsibility to my ownership. I had a responsibility to my managers, responsibility to my coworkers to show up, whether they did or not. And I had a responsibility to the guests who trusted us with our time and our money to give them the best of myself, no matter what state I'm in. And that changed everything for me. And when I worked at this new restaurant, I wanted to stay there for 5 years. That was my little game plan I had. Stay there for 5 years, get my finances together, get everything in order, then I can move on to my next thing. But there was a problem. This restaurant was slow. They were open for 3 years, and they were in the red every single year. So I had a mission, what I can do. What can Preston do in this situation? So I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure every single guest I interact with, I do everything in my power to make sure they come back. Everything in my power. Not just guests I'm serving, but guests I interact with. Even if I see someone looking for the restroom. How am I going to interact with them to make sure they come back? And no, I wasn't following them in the bathroom. Just normal stuff. And so that was my mission. That was my goal. That was my vision. Before you know it, started working. And I had people asking for my section. It would be like a Wednesday night. There'd be 22 reservations, 18 of them were for my section. And my GM took note of this. And he pulled me aside and he said, hey, Preston, do you think we could train the rest of the staff to do this? Because I feel like if they're doing what you're doing, we'll be successful. And I said, yeah, I agree. And so this GM was a visionary. And that's what I really want to ask you guys to do with the infinite versus finite mindset, is if you're a leader, become a visionary. Have vision. Well, if someone gives you a vision, translate it to your vision. Make it your vision as well. Add things to that vision to improve the experience, to improve where you work, because that's what my GM had. And I'll give you some examples. Has anybody here heard of the Cheesecake Factory? Has anybody been to the Cheesecake Factory? Raise your hand. Yeah. Very famous restaurant. They do over, I think, $2 billion a year. The owner of Cheesecake Factory, it started off with a mom making cheesecakes she found in a recipe in a magazine. She was selling them out of her basement. Made a bunch of money. Opened a restaurant in LA, just the Cheesecake Factory. What'd they sell? Cheesecakes. Her son, who was a music manager, said, "Mom, why don't we make this a full restaurant?" And so she said, "Okay, let's do it." So he's opening up the Cheesecake Factory, the first full-service restaurant. It's very small. And everyone said, "David, you can't call it the Cheesecake Factory." And he goes, "Why?" "Because it's a restaurant. People are going to get confused. You can't do it. You're going to lose business. You're going to go out of business." But he was a visionary without blinders. And he said, "No, I'm going to call it the Cheesecake Factory." So he opens up the Cheesecake Factory. It's a hit. They got a line out the door. And then he's sitting there, and he could be sitting there going, kind of like Don said, right? Momentum. Because he sat there and going, I'm successful. We're all good. Everything's great. We're fine. But he said, "No, I want to be more successful. I want to open more locations." So he's sitting there, and he's watching out the window, and as new restaurants open, he's seeing people go there for lunch. And he's saying, "I want to capture their business." There's an Indian place, there's a Chinese place, and he's sitting there going, "I want to capture their business." So he goes in, finds out what their best-selling dishes are, has a chef replicate them, puts them on their menu. And everyone says, "David, you can't do that. You have to focus on one cuisine. If you try and focus on all cuisines, you're going to fail. Can't do it." No blinders. David's a visionary. "No, I see this working. I see a way forward. I think this is going to be our solution." That's why Cheesecake Factory has over 150 menu items, and they're known for that. He had a vision, and he executed it, and now they're a $2 billion company. And there's a lot that goes into that besides that. My point is, I really want you guys to focus on being visionaries. Because you're in a leadership role, because you're in a whatever level that role is, you can still be a part of the vision. And my GM had that visionary role. So we sat there, and we developed the training and the systems, and I studied. I studied other businesses, I studied other restaurants, I studied other training, because one part of my journey I didn't tell you about was I worked at a lot of restaurants before that, and I saw something. I saw the training wasn't there. The first job I had was at Claim Jumper, and if you're from California, you're very familiar with them. Very successful restaurant group. They got bought out, now it's watered down, but before they were really, really successful. They had huge venues, and they would have lines out the doors Monday through Sunday with these gigantic venues. They were doing 60, 70, 80,000 sometimes a night, and that's back in like early 90s. And when I worked there, they had great training, great leadership, great systems, and I was like, man, this is awesome. I love it. It made it very easy for me as an employee to get buy-in. Everyone's bought in, everyone's excited, everyone's about it, people are moving up. But as I went into more and more restaurants, I realized that was an anomaly. Most restaurants didn't have the training, most restaurants didn't have the system, and most restaurants most definitely lacked leadership. That was the biggest thing. And it was always confusing to me because I'm sitting there going, there's a blueprint. There's a blueprint right here. There's one of the most successful restaurants right here. Why not copy their blueprint? But no one was doing it. So I started researching and realizing all the training out there is bad. So we really focused on the training. We developed the training. We implemented the training. We really focused on leadership development in order to give that culture a boost, in order to actually execute that training at a high level. And in order to execute something very important, which I'm going to talk about a lot today, which is follow-up. Follow-up, because follow-up is everything. We can have the best training in the world, but what happens if we don't follow up with them? What happens if we don't hold them accountable? All that training goes to the wayside, and it's all for nothing. And I want to kind of explain to you like this. You can either rely on your people, or you can rely on your training and systems. If you rely on your people, then that means you're going to go and hire 10 people and hope 1 or 2 of them are rock stars. 6 of them will probably be on the fence. They're kind of just in the middle, right? They're order takers. They're there. They're kind of just there. And then 2 of them are going to fall off. So you get diminished results when you rely on people. Finding a rock star is very few and far between. Now, if you rely on your training and your systems, that means anybody that comes in, you can train them up and nurture them and develop them into whatever you want them to be. So that's why training and systems is so important. But that takes upfront work. Does anybody here rely on the rock stars right now? All right, thank you for your honesty. So we developed this program. It was a small restaurant, 24 tables. In 14 months, we took it from $500,000 a year to $1.2 million in 14 months. And that was back in early 2000s. So that's when $1.2 million kind of meant something. So since then, I moved on. We started developing this training and systems for the rest of the corporation that we're working for. It was a corporate restaurant group, turning around their restaurants. I got poached and started doing it. We worked with about 50 different restaurants over time, churned them around. Now, a lot of these places weren't in the red. Don't get me wrong. They're in the green. They're doing successful, but they knew they can do more. They knew it. They're investing their resources. They had everything in place, but they just were missing something. They knew what it was, so they bring us in and we turn them around. Now, when I walk into a restaurant and I'm about to turn around, I always get the same thing, right? The restaurant or the hotel, they say, hey, Preston, when do you want me to get the staff together so you can train them? And I would tell them, I'm not training your staff, I'm training your leadership team. It makes no sense to train your staff first. Think about that. Why would I train your staff first if your leadership team isn't able to support whatever I train them? And I tell them like this, you can have Tony Robbins come into your restaurant and train your staff, get them freaking fired up, get them hyped up. But what happens when he leaves? You still have the same problem. Just like Kitchen Nightmares. Anybody watch Kitchen Nightmares or Bar Rescue? Yeah? Don't be embarrassed. I'm looking at you. I know you do. Yes, I can tell by the smile. Yes, Kitchen Nightmares, Bar Rescue. If you look at the statistics, 80% of them close after they get visited by the show. And they come in, they're like, you have all these problems. They yell at the owners, and they say, we're going to give you a facelift. We're going to remodel your restaurant. We're going to give you a brand new menu. And they leave, and they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. The problem is, the problem's still there. Poor ownership, poor leadership, still there. Didn't fix the problem. Just put a Band-Aid over it. So that's why I always go, we're talking to our leadership team first. So that's what we've done. After that, I started the 30% rule. Since then, we've scaled over 300 restaurants worldwide. We've helped contribute over $250 million in sales. We were featured in Forbes, Business Insider, Bloomberg, Fox. Like Brett said, I'm not going to brag. All right, that got a little bit better response. I'm not telling you this to brag, though, seriously. I'm telling you this because what we do works and people are supporting it. And we've been able to work with beautiful Admiral's Cove, with Brett. Like I said, Brett's been a mentor. Brett called me up, we had a conversation, he talked to me about country clubs. And I was, like he said, I was kind of like, wait, they have problems too? I mean, you guys have all these things, you have all these resources. And he goes, we suffer from the same problems, right? And so why I bring up Admiral's Cove is because Admiral's Cove is great. When we walked in there, yes, amazing, yes, please stand up, joking. But all their staff is great, and we had a great time. And the point wasn't like something was necessarily broken. Brett's like, how do we go from great to greatness? How do we be the best? I don't want to be great, I want to be the best. And how do we do that? That's where we come in. Right? We connect the dots for you guys. So Admiral's Cove, we worked with them. We're working with them. We're going to do a visit with them, and I think next month. And it's just been amazing. But I got to see that they have a lot. The country clubs have the same problems, right? And it's again not that that's bad. It's just that we're going from great to greatness. So this is what it'll look like when we create something for you in this situation, right? And there's training, there's train the trainer, there's systems, there's follow-up, all that good stuff. This looks like a confusing map, and it should look like that. But I want you to focus, more importantly, on the very top piece. And that's the four cornerstones of advanced leadership. That's the piece that you have to have. If you cut that piece off, you're cutting off the head of the snake. You have to have advanced leadership to be able to execute what you want to do. And that's what you should be focusing on, obsessing over. And I want to give you guys the tools to be able to do that. So, can anybody tell me if any of these things sound familiar? Maybe from your own mouths. Not a bad thing, but just, is this something that you're dealing with? Not enough time in the day, you're too busy, you're short-staffed, you're wearing too many hats. Anybody? Anybody? Yeah? Okay, thank you for your honesty. Yes. That's what it should feel like if being a manager or a leader. That's what it feels like. You guys have a lot going on. There's a lot riding on you. It's very difficult to be a leader in this industry. It's very difficult. You have so many elements that you're dealing with that most leaders don't deal with. You have your staff. You have multiple facets of the staff, right? There's hosts, there's bartenders, there's servers, there's bussers, there's kitchen. And then you have the guests. You have to deal with the guests, the clients, right? And then you have your management team above you. So there's a lot that goes into being a leader. It's very, 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 very hard, very stressful. But what I want to do is take this and talk about infinite versus finite thinking. I want to take this and talk about the 80-20, right? Being resourceful and saying, how do I fix this problem? How do I avoid these being this thing, right? That I can do X if I have more time. I can do Y if I wasn't so busy. I can do Z if I wasn't short-staffed right now. I can do X if I wasn't wearing so many hats. Once we hire on that new manager. Instead, it's an 80% psychological block. How do we overcome these? Because you can. Because it's always going to feel like this. I hate to break it to you. No matter what resources come your way, it's always going to feel like this when you're in a leadership role. So it's, again, aligning and focusing on the right things that you want to solve. So remember, it's not the size of a problem, it's the mindset around it. So really focus on that. Anybody seen this movie? Raise your hand if you've seen this movie. Okay, if you're not raising your hand, please wait for me outside. Thank you. So, I'm going to steal an analogy from Tony Robbins, and I want to talk about problems, right? You have these problems to tackle. I'm sure there's problems right now that you have to tackle where you're like, I can't even wrap my head around it. Where do I start? Where do I begin? What does that look like, right? But I'm going to start with this. It might seem hard until you break it down to simply stupid. That's what I call it. Simply stupid, not you're stupid or they're stupid or anybody's stupid. The solution's stupid. It's so easy that it's stupid. Why didn't I think of that before? Have you guys ever thought about that? I want you guys to be the visionaries. I want you guys to have the infinite mindset. Why didn't I think about that? I'm going to have people asking you that. Why didn't I think about that? How'd you come up with that good idea? Why didn't I think about that? So it breaks it down like this. Playing a round of golf with some friends, right? You're playing a round of golf, 18 holes, and your friend's not very good. And he said, hey, you want to play for some money? And he's like, no, thank you. Okay, how about this? 10 cents a hole. 18 holes, is that fair? He's like, oh, yeah, 10 cents a hole, no problem. I'm Brett. I have so much money. And then he says, okay. And then you go, wait, how about this? Let's make it a little bit more interesting, okay? Nothing too crazy. Why don't we just double it every hole? Is that cool? We just make it a little more interesting? Oh, yeah, it's 20 cents and 40 cents, 60 cents, 80, yeah, whatever. What is that, 100 bucks? Okay, yeah, that's fine. I can do that. Okay, cool. So let's break that down. 10 cents a hole. When we get to 6, we get to $3.20 a hole. Does anyone just want to shout a guess really quick on what it will get to when you get to 18 holes? Just shout out a number. Anybody? $50,000. That's really high, but I like your tenacity. Anybody else? $280? $280? Okay. So if we go down to it, it ends up being $13,107. $13,107. The math's right there on the screen. Now, my point of showing you this is that I want you guys to think of your problems as that 10 cents. All we got to do is get that 10 cents, and then that 20 cents, and then that 40 cents, and then that 80 cents. If you have a problem, we just got to break it down simply. Don't try and solve the $13,000 problem. Just start by solving the 10-cent problem, right? Break that problem down into pieces and start building it as you go, and you will get to that 13,000. So if you have a problem that you're sitting there, like, how do I fix this? It's so much work, it's this, it's that, I don't have time, I'm wearing too many hats, I'm short-staffed. Let's just start with the 10 cents part of the problem and build from there. And so that's where we go back into the 4 cornerstones of advanced leadership. That's where all these are all 10-cent pieces, right? And as you go down, it becomes 20 cents and 30 cents and 40 cents. And before you know it, it's becoming easier and easier to fix the problems. It makes more and more sense, and it just accumulates, has compounding interest. So one thing I want to focus on as leaders and owners, whatever it is, your day-to-day grind is misaligning you, okay? Your day-to-day grind is misaligning you. So when you come in, brand new manager, brand new leader, right? Server, bartender, whatever it is, your staff's gonna have the same thing. They're gonna have tenacity and excitement, right? You're like, oh man, I can't wait to freaking, I have so many ideas. Oh my God, I'm gonna do that. We're gonna change this, we're gonna change that. Oh, I have a problem for this. And then your workload comes in, you're like, whoa, this is a lot, right? And so as you go day to day at your job, no matter what, it becomes a grind. Doing the same things over and over again, it becomes a grind. You want to overcome that, and you're getting misaligned because of it. So I want to ask you guys right now, and I want you to write this down. This isn't one of the 5 things, but I do want you to write this down. Okay, so misaligning is natural, right? Getting misaligned is natural. Your day-to-day grind pulls you off course, and even small alignments lead to wrong decisions. Because my point of telling you this is when you start getting misaligned, right? When you start doing the day-to-day grind, you start focusing on the wrong things. You start focusing on the things that are fires that need to be put out right away, and you just slowly start taking your eye off the prize. So I want you to write this down. Reflect on this. Rediscovering your why. Everyone in here, rediscovering your why. Why am I doing this? Why are you doing this right now? What's my motivation? What's my motivation for doing this? Is it to support your family? Is it to buy a house? Is it to buy a second house? Or in Brett's case, a 10th house? Why did I start? Why did I start in the first place? Why did you start? Why did you start becoming a leader? Why did you want to become a leader? And why do I want to keep going? Why do I keep doing this? There's a reason, but you have to align yourself. Is it to help people? Is it to grow people? Is it to change the world? Is it to become better yourself, growth yourself, whatever it is? Why am I doing this? What's really important about this is if you write this down, if you have a notepad that you carry with you, which you should because note takers are money makers, you should have on the first page this right here, this filled out. And every day before you go into work, you should read it to yourself. And you should remember, why am I doing this? What's my motivation? Why did I start and why do I want to keep going? Align yourself. Realign yourself as a leader. Otherwise, you're going to slowly start taking your eye off the prize. And before you know it, you're making the wrong decisions for the wrong reasons. Now, this is really important when we talk about developing people. When you walk in, and this is not a joke, I actually see Brett doing this when I went to go secret shop, Admiral's Cove, and do an analysis on it. I saw Brett talking to his staff. What I noticed about Brett when he talked to his staff was he talked to his staff like he talked to the guests. I would see him talking to the guests, right? And you can see he was really good with them, smiling, talking, engaging. But he did the same exact thing with the staff. Smiling, talking, engaging. And that's really important because our staff is our internal guests, right? They're the internal client. We got to develop them. They're happy. They make our guests happy. Simple as that. We can't skip the line. Can't say we don't need to worry about making them happy. We're just going to make the guest happy. It doesn't work that way. All right. So when you walk in, is there any way we can get that brighter? Oh. So we walk in. There's 3 things we want to focus on. Okay? You want to talk to your staff about this every single day, if you can, right? Again, 80-20. I'm too busy. Preston, I'm too busy. Preston, I'm wearing too many hats. Preston, we're short-staffed. This is where we make that time. This is where we start developing people, using that 80-20 infinite mindset. How do I solve to make sure I spend 20, 30 minutes of my day when I first walk in to talk to the staff about this? And walk up to the staff, check their temperament. How are they doing? Right? How are they? How are you? Ask them. Not like, hey, how's it going? Nice, yeah, cool. I'm good, thank you. Like, how you doing? No, really, how are you doing? Be honest. Great. Good? Great. All right. You need anything from me?
I'm good right now, but I'll check in later.
Okay, well, no, I'm going to check in later. I'm gonna have your back. I'm going to make sure you're supported today, okay? I got you. Having serious, thoughtful conversations with your staff, and then check out the guest mood. Scan the room. How are the guests doing? Do they seem like they're having a good time? Do they seem like they're enjoying themselves? Do they seem like they're genuinely happy, right? And if they're not, let's go talk to them, right? Because a lot of times you might see some fires you need to put out right away. You're like, whoa, what's up with the music? What's up with the lighting? Blah, blah, blah. How come that guest isn't getting, why don't they have drinks yet, right? But then you look around, you're like, wait, everyone's happy. Why am I trying to fix it when everyone's happy already? Why am I trying to switch up the mood? And then the ambiance energy, making sure that the ambiance feels good, right? Do you feel good when you walk in? Does everything seem good when you walk into the tennis shop or you walk into the spa? Does it feel good when I walk in here? When I walk in here and the guest or the employee makes eye contact with me and says something, does that feel good or does it feel off? Does it feel like someone doesn't care? Do you walk in and someone's doing this? You know, you walk in and the front desk person's like this. Oh, hey, how's it going? Right? Boom. Energy off. Ambiance off. So write this down. This is something you guys should be doing every single time you walk into your locations. This should be your obsession. Helping. This is you caring. This is you putting in the effort to make sure that everything is what it's supposed to be. So we go back to this, right? So, let's go back. Yep. Okay, cool. So, we have this. Now, some of you might be saying, hey, Preston, we have a really good training program right now. Everything's great. We have a good training program. People are getting trained. We're doing a freaking great job. We love what we're doing. But we notice that somewhere along the line, the training that we develop and implement doesn't seem to last more than a couple weeks, couple months, right? By the end of the season, we're seeing a lot of fall off with this training we're doing. All of a sudden, we're noticing all these slip-ups, right? And so, why? Why does that happen? Why when I'm training someone, or you guys can probably feel this when I talk to someone, I say, hey, by the way, I saw you talk to this table. Do me a favor. Next time you talk to a table, do it this way, right? Because it gets X, Y, and Z done, and that's really great to do, and blah, 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 blah. And they're like, yeah, you got it. And then they go off, and you see them doing it that night, and you're like, awesome. Well, I'm a great leader. Think that all the time. And then, a week later, you come in, and you see them talking to their table, and they're not doing it. And you're like, well, we just talked about this. We just talked about this. And you go up to them, you're like, hey, remember that thing? They're like, oh, yeah. No, did I not do it? Oh, yeah, I got you. And then a week later, they're not doing it, right? So why is that happening? So I want to show you the 5 phases. This is what we work on. This is what we build all of our structures and environments over. But it's top of the funnel is what? Advanced leadership. Can't have anything without advanced leadership. If you don't have the leadership piece, everything else goes out the window. Then you have high-level systems. You have to have the systems to be able to support the training that you instill. If I train someone something and there's no system to support it, it's going to fail. It becomes a request. What happens when we request our staff to do things? Hey, can you please do that? It ends up falling off. Then we have dynamic training, which is very important. A lot of you have that. Follow-up mastery and accountability. That's why you're seeing the results you're seeing, is because a lot of people, a lot of organizations do not have proper follow-up mastery and they do not have proper accountability systems. And this is everything, right? As long as you have advanced leadership and the systems, now you have to have follow-up mastery because your advanced leadership team and you have the systems to follow up with them. You have to follow up with them with the training that you give them. If you train them on something and you don't follow up with them, what is the point, right? Like you have to. Like, does anybody have kids here? Okay. If you ask your kids to take out the trash and you don't check the trash to see if it got taken out, they might stop taking out the trash, right? But you have to go check. Was the trash taken out? Awesome. And then what happens if they don't take out the trash? Hey, do me a favor. Do that for me next time, would you? Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you. No, it's accountability, right? You're grounded. You're no allowance, whatever it is, right? There has to be accountability. Otherwise, they're not going to do it. So this is what I want you guys to focus on. If you're having trouble getting your staff to execute at a high level, are you following up with them? Again, nurturing and developing them? And are you holding them accountable? If you're not holding your people accountable consistently across the board, you're going to have diminished results. Do you guys agree with that? Do you guys agree with that? Yes. That I'm telling you right now, there's no point in having the top 3 if you can't hold them accountable. You have to be able to hold them accountable. Now, accountability is not a negative thing. It's not you running around laying down the hammer. It's not about you yelling at people. It's not about punishing people. That's not what accountability is. Accountability is a tool to develop people. That's it. I have a wife. I have rules. And if I don't follow those rules, there's accountability, right? But what does that do in the long term? That makes me a better husband. It realigns me. Makes me go, I need to focus on her again. I need to focus on these things. I'm taking my eye off the prize, and she's letting me know. Thank you for that, and thank you for your communication, honey. Thank you for telling me, because now I get to realign. I get to focus on the right things. Same with your business. It's a development tool. It's not a punishment. People make mistakes. Life happens. We get it. But we want to realign you here. and make sure that we're all on the same mission, same vision, same goal. And that's to give the guests the best experience possible. That's our number one goal. Giving our people the best experience possible. The people that trust us with their time and their money, we're going to give them the best experience possible. We're going to honor them. Has anybody seen this movie? Does anybody feel like I watch a lot of movies?
Effort.
Raise your hand if you've seen this movie. This is a great movie, and if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's called Moneyball, starring Brad Pitt. I'm using this analogy because a lot of people tell me I look like Brad Pitt. It's not supposed to be a laugh after that. They're like, you look like Jonah Hill. So Brad Pitt plays a baseball manager, if you haven't seen the movie. And so what he does is he's working for the team. Baseball is one of the few sports where there's no cap when you buy your team, right? Salary cap. So if you're rich, you can buy all the best players. Anybody here a Yankees fan? Not judging. I love it. Okay, so you could buy all the best players. Doesn't mean you're going to win, but it definitely gives you a better chance. And Brad Pitt's going to his GM at the beginning of the movie and saying, hey, we need more money to build a team. I need more money. And he says, there's rich teams that can buy players. There's poor teams that have to struggle. We're here. He's like, we need more money. And his GM says, no, I can't give you more money. And his GM basically tells him, I need you to be resourceful and not rely on resources. So Brad Pitt goes and he meets Jonah Hill by chance. And Jonah Hill has a really inept way of viewing players. And he goes, how do you come up with the way you view players? And he goes, it's all numbers, statistics. I statistically look at them. Now, before, it's all scouts. Scouts say, he hits really well, he catches really well, but he's a little bit old, he's having girlfriend problems, this, that, whatever. He's getting a little chubby. But Jonah Hill's like, no, it's all numbers. It's a number, it's a math equation. We find the math equation that equals the highest point. So he starts going, I'm going to go all in on this. I'm going to be resourceful. I'm going to go all in on this. So he starts hiring baseball players that no one wants for cheap. And the scouts are like, why are you hiring these people? They're terrible. You're getting rid of all your good players. And Brad Pitt's like, this is going to work. We're going to do it. And then the coach comes to him. And the coach says, I can't coach these guys. These are terrible. They're terrible players. And Brad Pitt's like, well, look, here's the numbers. Here's the analytics. And so they could bring this team on. And they go on this giant losing streak. They just keep losing. Everyone's making fun of them. Everyone says they're crazy. And Brad Pitt's about to get fired. And he's driving in his car one night. He stops off on the side of the road. And he thinks for a second. He's so stressed out. And he goes, okay. So he goes back. And he talks to Jonah Hill. And he realizes he's doing it wrong. He realized he hired all these players, but didn't give them the game plan or the vision or the mission. He didn't give the coach the mission or the vision. And so no one knows what's going on except for them. They're the only ones that have the mission and the vision in their head. So he spends the next part of the movie coaching every player with Jonah Hill. He stops and says, all we want you to do is get on base. All we want you to do is hit home runs. All we want you to do is catch balls. That's it. That's all you're going to focus on. And they're coaching them on how to do that. Just focus on that. That's all we care about. Just do that one thing, you'll be good. And they start talking about the coach and telling them that's what you want to do. They start filling them in on the mission and the vision. They start saying, this is your piece of the vision. Here's my vision, and here's a piece of it. And I want you to accomplish it with me. Just kind of like what Don talked about, getting that buy-in, selling the dream. And then they started winning, and they won on the biggest winning streak the sport has ever seen. I don't know if it still exists today, if they still have it, but they had the biggest winning streak that season. My point of telling you this is that we have to get them bought in. They went and they nurtured their team members. They nurtured them. They grew them. They took the time, but they got amazing results. But when they left it on them, like, hey, here's a mission, good luck, now do what I say, you get diminished results. All right, so we call these daily masterminds. I want you to write this down. This is another tool I want you to use. Does anybody here, I don't know what you would call it, pre-shift, have a pre-shift meeting with your staff? Raise your hand. Awesome. If you're not, you should. No matter what department you're in, if you're a manager and you're on the floor, you're a leader, you're on the floor, you should have a pre-shift with every single one of your employees. We call them daily masterminds. Because a daily pre-shift usually includes like information, numbers, right? We have this many reservations. We have a big party. We're out of something. Something's broken. That's all information that you can post somewhere that they can read, that can be the responsibility. What you want daily masterminds to be is a training tool. We're going to train our staff every single freaking day. We're going to show that dedication to nurture our staff. It takes 3 to 10 minutes. 3 minutes is fine. You want to look at it as a war cry, right? We're getting them excited. We're getting pumped up. We're getting them, again, bought into the mission, the vision. We're getting them engaged. You want to bring energy to these things, and you want to get them engaged. Ask them questions. Talk to them. When's the last time you got a win with a guest? When's the last time you went above and beyond for a guest? When's the last time you gave elevated hospitality? Sell me that special today. If someone asks about the red light room, tell me about the benefits. I want to hear you tell me as if I'm a guest. Get them engaged. If they know they're going to be called on, if they know they're going to be talked to, they're going to pay attention. They're going to focus on it. If you're just going to talk at them the whole time, they're going to sit there and wait for you to be done talking. Right? Even the best employees. So this is a tool that you want to use that you can implement tomorrow to make sure that every freaking staff member gets trained every single day, that gets motivated every single day, and that gets moved every single day. But this is a commitment, guys. And one thing we asked our staff to do a lot is be consistent. Does anybody here not want their staff to be consistent? Raise your hand. Yes, we want our staff to be consistent every single day. We're asking them to do that, right? But we're not consistent. If we show them this consistency, they'll get bought into your vision of consistency. They'll be more dedicated to the consistency because you've taken the time to show them that you can do that. And these are just some statistics. If you're teaching your staff daily, engaging, high energy, staff retention increased by 25%, guest satisfaction improves by 15 to 30%, daily repetition boosts memory 3 times over monthly training, and it builds culture and trains confidence in under 90 days. Builds culture and trains confidence. People tell me all the time, I don't know how to train my staff to be more confident at tables, be more confident with the guests, be more confident. This is how you do it. Daily masterminds. You have to build them. You have to nurture them. You have to grow them. And here are some best practices I always talk about, mandatory for every staff member every day. Every staff member gets a training. Every day. Held at each staff member exactly when they clock in. So don't say, I'm going to wait till everybody clocks in. I'm going to pull them all aside. I want your undivided attention. I don't want you to be distracted with work. I want your undivided attention for the first 3 to 5 minutes of your shift. I'm going to train you on something, and then you can go get them. No multitasking. You don't want them doing side work. You don't want them doing something while they're doing the pre-shift or the daily mastermind. You want them completely focused on you, huddling, no leaning, all standing around you, and again, being engaging. And this is really simple. To execute this, you want to be organized. Organized. So that means we're having manager meetings. We're printing out what these are saying. We're having the same managers or the same leaders have the same mission, the vision. It's not up to the leader that day. That's where you get misalignment. We're all going to do the same things. We're all going to talk about the same things for at least 1 week. We're all going to be focused on one training, one philosophy for 1 week. And every time a leader is doing it, it's all the same, right? High energy, be interactive, and be consistent with this. It's so important. You're going to take it to the next level with your staff if you're truly consistent with them. I promise you, if you guys do this at a high level, you will see results. And to create that dossier, address performance gaps. So it's really simple. Hey, my staff's not doing X. I don't know why I can't get them to do X. I'm going to talk about that for the next week. I'm going to make that their obsession for the next week. I want my staff to say, Preston, I get it. You've said this 4 times today, like this week. We get it. Awesome. I've done my job. You've heard me. I made it loud and clear. Now I'm setting expectations. You want to rotate weekly. Tangible goals. Tangible goals. Set tangible goals for your staff. Whatever I'm trying to get them to do, I'm going to give them a goal. Hey, I want you to sell more of these, so I'm going to ask you to sell 3 by the end of the week. Is that fair? Okay, we're going to be keeping track, right? Set tangible goals and include role-playing, scripts, tasting prompts, and follow-ups. Follow up with them. If you talked about it on Monday, ask on Wednesday. You see someone that's in that daily mastermind, ask them, how's that going, by the way? What have you done to imply that? What have you done to grow from that? What have your results been? What difficulties have you had? Let's talk through it. I'll walk you through it. All right. And I'm going to just check my phone because I have no idea how long I talk for. I was telling Brett I did a presentation the other day. It was for an hour. And I just giving all this energy, did it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I got like 10 minutes left. It had only been 10 minutes. And I got through my whole presentation. And I was like, so Anybody watching any shows? All right, so write this down. Again, accountability can be preemptive. Accountability can be preemptive. And accountability doesn't have to be a negative thing. It's about how you frame things. So important. So I tell people this all the time. Keep, start, stop. So you're going to have I try to have one with one of my team members every single week. I have a keep, start, stop meeting with them. And I tell them that, hey, Monday at 2 o'clock, we're going to have a keep, stop, start. Or if I'm coming to my shift, hey, do you have 5 minutes for a keep, stop, start? Right? Yeah, absolutely. Now they know what it is. Keep doing this. Start doing this. And stop doing this. Hey, keep greeting the guests the way you are, because I see how you do it. It's freaking amazing. You're getting them engaged. You're getting, you're creating an experience. I love it. Start upselling. You need to upsell more. I need you to focus on upselling more. Please focus on it. Here's some tools to do it. Here's some ideas and examples to do it. If you have any questions, let me know. But please, can you make me a promise that you're going to start doing it today? Stop coming in late. I've noticed you come in late every day this week. I need you to stop coming in late, okay? So please, I'm watching. If you come in late again, we're going to give you a verbal warning, written warning, whatever it is. But please stop coming in late. It's affecting the staff. It's affecting the flow of business. And ultimately, we're here to chase excellence. Being late is not a part of the equation when you chase excellence. So you have that conversation with them, and it keeps it super simple and super clean, right? No one's offended. I know when I walk in, I'm going to get a compliment. I'm going to get a constructive criticism, but I know what I'm walking into. So try and have this conversation with your staff, especially if you're a GM. Have this meeting with your leadership team individually once a week. Keep, start, stop. And then write this down. This is another one of the 5. Is that a 10 out of 10? So I noticed a owner would come into his restaurant and he'd go into the kitchen first thing, right? Very critical of the food. He was a chef partner. So he'd walk in, and he'd be like, there'd be plates of food up. And he'd be like, hey, fix the lettuce here. Hey, fix the potatoes here. Why is this plate dirty? Hey, cook your station. You need to clean your station. Hey, do that. And he's just going on and on, like just boom, 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 just all over the place. And every time someone would come in, he would come in, everyone would be like, oh, here we go. Tornado's about to hit. And he would just go left and right and left. And he'd go, Preston, why? I keep telling them, and they're just not listening. I have to go in there and I have to look at the food, and I have to solve I'm so tired of it. And I go, well, man, you're micromanaging them. You're just micromanaging. You're not actually like making progress. Micromanaging does not lead to progress. It does not lead to success. Micromanaging is a Band-Aid that fixes the problem in the moment, but no one actually retains information or grows from it. So I said, we came up with a strategy of just saying 10 out of 10. Is that a 10 out of 10? So walk in, hey, is this dish a 10 out of 10? Why don't you tell me? No? Okay, fix whatever you think needs to be fixed. Hey, is your station a 10 out of 10 right now? All right, come on. Let's get a 10 out of 10, right? Is a dining room a 10 out of 10? Go to the floor manager. All right, do what you need to do to fix it, right? Go behind the bar. Hey, is this bar section a 10 out of 10 right now? Is this drink a 10 out of 10? Come on, guys, let's focus. Or maybe it is a 10 out of 10. Good freaking job, right? But 10 out of 10, that makes it so much more easy to convey your information and to get them to solve the problem instead of you solving the problem. Is this plate a 10 out of 10? Show me what needs to be fixed, right? 9 times out of 10, they're going to fix it on their own. So that's an easy tool to be able to give to your staff to solve a problem. Now we're going to talk about the 4 cornerstones of leadership. This is so important. I've worked at so many restaurants. I've worked at fine dining restaurants. I've worked with hospitality groups who have 18 locations doing, 4 or 5, $10 million out of one location, per location. They're just killing it, but their leadership team is sorely lacking leadership skills because most companies don't develop managers into leaders. They don't give them the proper tools. Again, they rely on people versus training and systems. And so the 4 cornerstones of advanced leadership: emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, I'm sure a lot of you know what that is, but basically all it is you saying, I can control my emotions, right? I can identify my emotions, I can control them, and I won't let them affect my business. I won't let them affect the way I react to my staff, the way I react to guests, the way I react to my other managers. I can control my emotional intelligence, so that way I don't snap at people, or I don't make harsh decisions because I'm angry or feeling a certain way. Guest recovery, accountability mastery, which is holding people accountable, and inspiration. And one thing I want to talk about is inspiration. And again, so you're gonna ask like, Preston, how do I make time for this stuff? I want you to think about the 80-20 again. Really, really focus on that. The 80-20, how do I make time? Resourceful, being resourceful, focusing on the right things, having an infinite mindset. And all you have to do is spend 30 minutes a day with your staff to do this stuff. That's it, 30 minutes a day with your staff to do this stuff. Go around talking to your staff, taking that time, 30 minutes a day. So being inspirational is huge as a leader because there's two ways people can follow you. They can follow you because you're their boss, or they can follow you because you're their leader. If they're following you because of your boss, then that means they don't want to get in trouble, they don't want to get fired, which means they'll do the bare minimum to not get in trouble or not get fired. If they're following you because you're a leader, they're going to walk through fire for you. You're going to ask them to jump, but they're going to say how high. Why? Because you inspire them, because you believe in them. Has anybody read Unreasonable Hospitality? Raise your hand. Who here has improved their restaurant by reading Unreasonable Hospitality? Raise your hand. Nice. Thank you for your honesty. That's not a joke. I have a lot of restaurants I work with, and they're like, I have my whole management team read Unreasonable Hospitality. That's like a requirement. I'm like, okay, that's awesome. What has improved since you've been doing that? Their reading skills. I'm like, oh, that's good. That's definitely a plus. I mean, you are growing them. And so my point of saying that is because people will read the book, but there's no action plan behind it, right? They get inspired, but then they don't move anything forward. They don't take notes, because note takers are money makers. Yes, they don't take notes. They don't take action plans. But one thing I want you to take from Unreasonable Hospitality is a story, which I'm sure if you read the book, you're familiar with, is that he got to the 11 Madison, and he was like, I remember when I was at this restaurant, and a new GM came in, and he gave this speech about his vision, his mission, and what our goals were, and how we applied to it. And it was so moving. It was so awesome. And I've been waiting for that point in my life to have that speech, to be able to have that speech. But now that I'm here, I want to do it right. I'm not going to jump in and have the speech. What I'm going to do is work for the next 60 days in every position. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm not going to give any direction. I'm not going to tell anybody what to do. I'm just going to work. I'm going to work the dish pit. I'm going to work server. I'm going to work busser. I'm going to work bartender. I'm going to support the staff 110%. I'm going to work harder than anybody in the room. I'm going to come in earlier, leave later. I'm going to be the hardest worker in the room, give them the most support. I'm going to earn their respect. And more importantly, I'm going to learn how this restaurant freaking operates before I start making decisions and telling people what's what. So he spent 60 days doing that, 7 days a week, just 20 hours a day, putting everything into it. And he learned everything, every nuance about that restaurant, and also got the respect of all the staff. Then he had that meeting, right? Then he had that meeting of like, hey guys, I'm the new leader. Here's my mission, and here's what I want you to do to be a part of that mission, that vision. Here's your goal, and here's what we're chasing, which is excellence. And he went on to do that. And so that's my point, is like, we want to be inspirational. We want to inspire people. Inspiring people means we have to be the hardest worker in the room. We have to be the hardest worker in the room, and they have to see it. Right? Your staff has to see it. It can't be like, I'm the hardest worker in the room, trust me, when I'm at home, I'm still on my laptop, right? Very valid, but that's not something they're going to see. We got to show them that we're the hardest worker in the room, show them that we'll support them, show them that we have their back, and show them that we genuinely care, and that's how you truly become inspirational. But you have to ask yourself, does my staff is truly inspired by me, or are they just doing what I say because I'm the boss? And either way is going to be functional. But what results do you want? Again, focusing on the right thing, 80%, being resourceful. Do I want the best out of my staff, or do I want the minimum out of my staff? If I want the best out of my staff, I'm going to have to put the work in. No matter what, I'm going to have to put the work in. And every true leader has done that. Will Guidara, great example of that. Will Guidara, by the way, I always tell leadership teams this, went from a restaurant manager to a worldwide superstar, right? And so I always tell people, I'm like, it doesn't seem like it, but the possibilities are endless when you're in a leadership role. The possibilities are truly endless, but you have to own it, and you have to really, really be committed to it. But you can take it to anywhere you want to take it. And I want to talk about leadership a little bit more. How much time do I have left? 30 minutes? 20 minutes? 20 minutes? Okay. I want to talk, before I get into hospitality mindset, I want to talk about leadership and understanding like what you have as a leader and how excited you should be to be a leader. Because as a leader, you have the ability to change people's lives and to have an impact on the world. And I tell this to even people who are serving burgers and beers. You do have the ability to impact the world because you're impacting the people that come in your door, right? You're making their day better because of your leadership. But you're also impacting, I think, a much more important sector, which is the employees. Because you can impact the employees' lives. You have that ability to impact the employees' lives for them to walk away and say, man, that changed my life. That person changed my life. And I think everyone probably has that in this room. Well, one manager you had at one point or one leader you had at one point said, that changed my life. That person changed my life. And so you guys have that ability to do that. So, it's really an exciting thing, and you can grow your career to wherever you want it to go, and Will Gadara is a really good example of that. So I want to go into hospitality mindset. Hospitality mindset. Hospitality is in everyone. I hate this mindset that some people have it or they don't, which is not true. Hospitality is innately in everybody. Hospitality is in every single person. It's up to us to bring it out. Some people will be better than others, yes, but everybody has it. And I always ask people this. I go, if you're dating someone and they're about to come over to your house for the first time, you're going to cook them dinner, what would you do? Anybody?
Clean.
Clean?
Clean.
Clean house? What else?
Prepare.
Prepare, yes. What else?
Take a shower.
Take a shower, yeah. Yeah, you're gonna clean. You're gonna clean parts of your place that you've never cleaned before, right? Ladies, you're not gonna leave like a brush with a bunch of hair on the counter, right? You're probably not gonna have your makeup bag with a bunch of makeup stuff everywhere. Guys, like you're actually gonna clean the toilets. Am I the only one? Okay. You're gonna cook something that you're gonna ask them what they like, right? To make sure you cook them something they're actually gonna enjoy. You're gonna try and buy their favorite wine or their favorite drink. You're gonna put music on. You're gonna light a candle. You're gonna dim the setting of the light. Why are you doing all that stuff? Is it because you want a tip? Is it because they're going to give you a job promotion? No, it's because you want them to genuinely have the best time ever. All you care about is them having a great time. That's all you care about. I see you laughing back there. I don't want to know what the answer is. Romania. All you want them to have is a good time. That's it. You just want them to genuinely enjoy themselves. And everyone understands this concept because everyone's hospitable. You get what hospitality is. You know how to be hospitable. It's just us unlocking it. And I like to talk about unconditional hospitality. And this is something I really try and instill in my staff members. And only way you can really do it is lead it by example. But being unconditionally hospitable. So unconditional, meaning that it does not matter what you get back in return. Truly being unconditionally hospitable, because by nature, hospitality is selfless. The most tips I ever made in my life was at a restaurant that was doing the worst, had the cheapest menu, and had the least amount of people walking in the door. Because it was the first time in my life that I was selfless with my hospitality. And I didn't care about anything about except the guest experience. Before that, I'd work at fine dining restaurants that were super busy, packed full, high menu items, and I made more money in the other location because I actually put someone else before my own needs. And that's what selfless hospitality is all about. You cannot be hospitable if you're doing it for a tip. You can't be hospitable if you're doing it to keep your job. You can't be hospitable if you're doing it to even make your bosses happy. You have to truly do it selflessly and unconditionally. So I try and teach the staff that you can unlock a lot if you truly say, I'm going to put the guest before myself. That means it doesn't matter what mood I'm in. It doesn't matter what my boss said to me or if I got in a fight with a significant other. And nothing matters except for the guest experience, and that's all that matters. You're going to have a lot of success. There's a couple things to that. One is that it unlocks something in your personal life. Because if you start putting everyone else before yourself, you're going to notice that a lot of things unlock for you. But also, unconditional hospitality isn't just for the guest. I try and really, really explain and drive home the point that unconditional hospitality is also for your coworkers. You can be unconditionally hospitable to your coworkers. You can show them selfless hospitality. You can be unconditionally hospitable to your leadership team. You can show them unconditional hospitality by supporting them, making sure you come in on time, making sure you perform on a high level, making sure you don't let your mood affect the way you actually perform. But also leadership. You can be unconditionally hospitable to your staff. Doesn't mean you're going to let them get away with murder, nothing like that, but you're just showing them unconditional hospitality by living it and breathing it. And the next thing I want to go into is infinite mindset, which we already talked about, but instilling that in your staff, talking to your staff about that. A lot of servers, bartenders, front desk people don't have this conversation with their leadership team. Their leadership team doesn't take the time to try and instill this in them because they care, right? I really want you to kind of change your mindset to become a better person, to grow, to do more things, to be better at what you do. I want you to leave here better than we found you. I want you to improve while you're here. And I'm going to show you something called infinite mindset versus finite mindset. And I want you to change the way you look or change the way you think about things. Now, I try and explain this to people. I say, listen, if you're a server, I go, why are you here, right? I'm here for money. I'm here for money. Everyone's here for money. That's why we're here. Okay, that's fine. But I want you to understand something. So I'm going to tell you a story, and I'll kind of wrap with this, of the two Aarons. This is the first restaurant I worked at. I was a busser. And I worked with two other bussers. They're both named Aaron. There was one Aaron who was really quiet, nice guy, freaking hard worker. Like that weird hard worker where you're like, dude, why? It's like, slow down, man. Like, what is going on? But he was always a hard worker, wanted to be an accountant. I remember that. He would tell me that passing, like, that's my goal is to become an accountant. The other Aaron was loud. And he was going to be a music manager. And he convinced everybody of this. He's going to be rich, all these cars, these houses, these famous people, millions of dollars. And he talked about it with such conviction, I believed him. I was always like, hey, Aaron. Like, in case I need to borrow money one day, I'm like, hey, what's up, buddy? Okay, I stayed really close to him. And so they got, and I want to explain a little bit about Quiet Aaron. Quiet Aaron was a hard worker, but he did really crazy things to me. Like, for example, we had a clam chowder, which we kind of put in a little bowl, and it was around a white ceramic, and so it would splash everywhere. And no one would clean it. And so it would cake up, and it'd be freaking disgusting. Quiet Aaron would come in, and he would freaking scrape all of it off until it was like sparkling clean, every shift. And I finally told Aaron, I go, Aaron, what are you doing? That's not your job to clean up after everyone else. That's a manager's job to make sure that gets done. Why are you doing it? Why are you spending 30 minutes after your shift doing that? And he just said, Preston, I just take a lot of pride in working in a clean environment. If I have to clean it myself, then I'll do it, right? That's just how I am. And I'm like, what a loser. I don't even clean my room. And look how things are going for me. So I was too immature to really like take the power of that away from it. But anyway, Aaron would just be the hardest worker in the room. He was always working so freaking hard. The other loud Aaron disappearing all the time, right? Where'd Aaron go? All of a sudden he comes back half later. Oh, sorry, I was taking out the trash. You know, that guy. Always coming late, always leaving early, always had a odor to him that smelled like marijuana. I think it was his cologne. And so two different people. But I remember they left for their jobs about a month apart. They got prospective jobs in their field. Quiet Aaron became an accountant. He's making like $28,000 a year. And then Loud Aaron got an internship for a music company. He was freaking excited. And so about a year later, I'm working at another restaurant. Guess who walks in the door? Anyone want to guess? Quiet Aaron. In your defense, everyone says Loud Aaron first. Quiet Aaron walks in the door, and he's wearing a suit, a really nice suit, and he has a really nice watch on, and he has a Mercedes key fob, and my insecurities are going through the roof. Because I'm like, a year ago, I was like working side by side with this guy. What's going on? What am I doing wrong? And so he sits in my section, and I'm like, hey, man, how's it going? And he's just super humble. Oh, it's going good. How are you? Good. Looks like you're doing good. He's like, yeah, I got a couple promotions. I got poached. I've been very blessed. How are you doing, Preston? And so we have a conversation, super nice, as always, leaves me a $1,000 tip. This is like early 2000s, late 1990s. So that's when $1,000 kind of meant something. And I was like, he left me a $1,000 tip, and now my insecurities are like gone. I'm just so depressed because I haven't seen $1,000 like anywhere in person in my life, and it's sitting here on a tip line from a guy I was working with side by side just a year ago. About 3 months later, I ran into, anyone want to guess who I ran into? No, my dad. Now, I'm joking. No, yes, it was Loud Aaron. Loud Aaron. Guess where I ran into him? Any guesses? At a restaurant. Yes. Guess what he was doing? Bussing. Yeah, no, he actually got a promotion. He was bartending. And I was shocked. I was genuinely shocked. I walked in and I was like, Aaron, what, like, dude, what happened? The whole music, like, what's going on? He goes, oh, Preston, man, it was all these excuses. It was shady, it was this, it was that, it was rigged. I had to get out, man. It was toxic. I don't want to be like those people. I'm like, oh, man, you're a hero. And so we went out afterwards, had a couple drinks. back when I used to drink. And he loosened up, and he finally told me. He goes, Preston, dude, these people were crazy. The guys I'm working side by side with, the other interns, I'm working 5 days, they work 6. I work 6, they work 7. I work 8 hours, they work 12. I work 10, they work 14. I couldn't do it. I had migraines, I had headaches. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't keep up with them. All of them got promoted. I got fired. I couldn't keep up. And so I thought about that for a while, like years later, after I had time to process it. And I realized something. I realized that the Aaron, quiet Aaron, wasn't working the way he was working for the restaurant Claim Jumper. He wasn't working that hard for the $6 an hour that we were getting, plus tips. He was working for himself, and he understood that. He knew to be successful in his next phase of his life, he had to be the best in the room where he was at right then and there. He knew if he couldn't be the best in the room there, how could he be the best in the room in the next place? And the other Aaron didn't understand that. And so he didn't build up that muscle, that hard work muscle, that tenacity muscle, that keeping up your standards in hard times muscle. He didn't build that muscle up, which they are muscles. And so he didn't build that muscle up, and when he got called up to the plate, he was the first one to strike out because he didn't know how to hit the ball. And the quiet Aaron did. And so I try to explain this to people that, listen, and this is what I want you to talk to your staff about, like, you're here, yes, but you're not here for us. You're not here for your paycheck. You're here developing yourself. And you're either developing yourself up or down every single day you walk in the door. And when you accept mediocrity, or when you cut corners, or when you show up late, you're building bad habits because you are the sum of your habits. And when you come in and you bust your butt, no matter what the circumstance is, you give it your all, no matter what the circumstance is, and you fight through adversity, even when it's hard to keep up those standards and be the best in the room, well, that's a habit that you're developing. No matter what. No matter whatever mental gymnastics your brain's going to take you through. So I always try and explain this to my staff to let them know you are working for something much bigger than just that check. And if you're sitting there and you're saying as a server, I'm walking in the door to make money, to put on my paycheck, to go spend on food and rent, you're committing yourself to a paycheck-to-paycheck life. You're not walking in the door to add money to your paycheck. You're walking into your door to build yourself up and become the baddest ass version of yourself. And it's your choice. But either way, the results are going to be completely yours. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for your commitment, for being here. Everybody here, I don't think anybody here was forced to be here. And I know you guys are here because you want to grow and develop, and I applaud you for that because that's what a true leadership is. Not just leadership for your restaurant, but leadership of your life. And I really respect the fact that you guys have done this and that you guys are here growing. And I thank you for honoring me by letting me present today. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
So enlightening. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Yeah, you too. Focusing, right? That 80-20, like developing. And the biggest person that pays off is a leader. Oh, thank you.
About you, okay?
I'll definitely reach out, man. Yeah, I mean, you never know, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
when are you leaving?
Tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow. Yeah, so I'm here all night. Nothing. We're going to grab dinner.
I think you want to come with the team?
People get anxiety from not moving the needle, right? You know something's supposed to be done and you're not doing it, but when you even make the slightest progress on it, and you know that, and your brain recognizes that, you get that anxiety goes away, you feel accomplished. So all you gotta do is those small wins, and all of a sudden, like your mindset and everything, your mental health just gets much better. And you get more motivated to do it.
It's branding that you can't pay money, you can't buy it.
That's what I'm talking about. Thank you. You're a phenomenal server, by the way.
Cal, you're a rock star, man.
Yeah.
So we finally wrapped up. Biggest feedback I got was that people felt realigned, right? They know the mission, they know all these things, but they got realigned and they got tools to realign themselves every day to focus on those things, because that's a problem, is that leadership and ownership lose their focus, right? They lose what they're focusing on. So That was really important to them. And then we gave them tools to be able to actually develop their people. Everyone had a lot of good feedback about the tools. I kept hearing this mentioned over and over again when I asked them for their biggest takeaways. So that was awesome. And that's why these 1-2 hour talks are so powerful, because we pack a punch with them, making sure they have actual items to walk away with. And now we're wrapped up here, going back home. We're going to go prepare to get ready for San Francisco for our next restaurant that we're working with. We're developing their leaders. Again, this time it's franchisees.